What's going on? Williams and Blum on a Wednesday morning. Just a different vibe to the Sunday night.
It is.
Drinking the coffee instead of the whiskey, instead of the Cody Road. Although Blum may have Cody Road in that.
Could technically put that in here.
I want to remind everybody, if you're just listening on the Cyclone Fanatic podcast feed, we are doing a lot of these shows now are going to be put on YouTube as well from this beautiful studio we have, courtesy of our friends at Nebraska Furniture Mart. If you look around on it, you'll see this incredible furniture. We even have an NBA Jam machine from our friends at Nebraska Furniture Mart, Blum.
People agreed with me that it needs to be Golden Tee and not Big Buck Hunter for the second one.
Well, I gotta call up our friends at Nebraska Furniture Mart and see what they have.
I would even settle for Silver Strike.
Blum's wife works there, so she should be able to
get in the inventory.
See what we got down there.
Get the employee discount.
Just an incredible process. It was super easy.
Yeah, go see him at the fair.
Well, yeah, you could do that. Your wife will be there, right? Crystal Blum will be there. Happy birthday to Crystal, by the way, belated.
She made
on the podcast. But no, it was super easy. I don't think people realize sometimes how they just deliver it and they set it all up for you, and I didn't really have to do anything.
And they will deliver from Omaha too.
Yeah,
you can get furniture.
It's phenomenal.
It's
super easy process. But if you look around here in our studio on YouTube, all of this courtesy of our friends at Nebraska Furniture Mart. We are presented on Wednesdays, as always, by our friends at Mechdyne and the Mechdyne Corporation. Shout out to them. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. They had the idea for Williams and Blum Sunday. Here we are, Williams and Blum Wednesday, and we appreciate them. I'm going up to their social on Friday night. Are you going to come? Are you going to join me? Go hang out with the Mechdyne crew?
I think I might. Yeah.
So much fun.
How
great is a company when you want to go to their social and you don't even work for them?
Well, we're working on that.
Yeah.
Maybe angling someday, Clover.
Someday
you hear us?
He told me, though, he wouldn't just hire me. He's going to make me go through that whole personality thing.
You got to fit the organization.
I don't know.
Fit the I don't know if you make it.
I don't fit many cultures.
That's
I really don't. Don't try and put me in a box, dude. I'm probably going to fail.
I'm glad you're doing what you're doing because I'm not sure else what you would do.
That's what I've told people. I don't even know what else I could be good at. I suck at everything else I've ever tried. Look at me. I'm a pathetic individual.
Definitely not professional golf.
Welcome to Williams and Blum Wednesday. A lot calmer show than it was.
Oh, my God. What a week.
A week ago, the Wednesday show was frantic. You had the gambling situation that had just broken. You had ongoing realignment where that has settled. Today, we get to look at some blowout basketball box scores from the Bahamas and the bit of the aftermath of realignment.
It finally feels like it's like the thunderstorm rolled. It's like the derecho rolled through, and then you're looking around like my couch cushion's
that
still
power
here.
line's down
is
there.
That one here? Where are we at?
All right,
What's
so
next?
I got some hail damage over here.
We got no power.
Yeah,
but we're alive.
Our pets' heads are falling off.
That was about 3 years ago. Derecho.
Yeah, it was because it was 20, and I remember sitting in your house because you had a generator. So you actually had power. Nobody else did. So we had a little bit of air conditioning.
We did the show from my basement that one day.
We did.
We had a generator.
Because I didn't have power and you did. And we really couldn't communicate with the outside world because all the cell phone towers were down, if you remember that. Yeah. My wife had to go to work, and I couldn't even talk to her because we had no internet and no cell phone and no air conditioning. And I remember there's this epic picture of me and Elise and Cameron. Elise and I don't have shirts on. She's just in her diaper, and Cameron is wearing a bathing suit.
You look like you got hit by a truck.
Yeah, and I'm
because this was in the middle of COVID when they just canceled the Big Ten.
They just can't. We thought that the whole season was getting blown up,
and then thus maybe all of college sports. Man, and now look at us. Things have really calmed down.
Yeah. I look about 10 years older. Okay, should we start with basketball?
Let's start with basketball.
Because I feel like that's more relevant to the Iowa State crowd. So they're playing in the Bahamas. I didn't even realize this. It snuck up on me. The women are in Italy.
Yeah.
I don't believe they have played yet.
They have not. I think their first game is tomorrow.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that for all of you as well. That'll be really interesting to see how rotations are playing out with that young of a team. I feel like with basketball, we have a decent idea of who will be in the rotation. Now, I do think that we're learning just a little bit about this team, though, from the scores that we've seen. I do want to preface, you cannot take too much from this, okay?
No.
This is, if you're one of those fans, and we appreciate you fanatics so much for being fanatical, but I wouldn't be hanging on every box score here and think that's how it's going to look when Big 12 play rolls around. I think there's a lot of, let's use a guy like Omaha Blue.
Yeah, and I think he's the one who's received the most attention because he has not started a game yet.
Well, and the way I look at it is super young, talented post guy going up against, for the first time, 23-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard. That was hard enough for Monte Morris to do with DeAndre Kane. That's the one example we always go back to. Physically, Omaha wasn't there for a lot of the summer because he was in Colorado with USA Basketball. Great experience.
Yeah, and then he went overseas.
And he's just physically not there yet. And you're asking him to go up against Trey King, Robert Jones, and Hassan Ward, who I've been told has just had a monster offseason. Probably going to start at the 5.
Yes, as of right now.
For Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough task for young Omaha. So he will be better off for this, but don't overreact is what I'm saying too when you look at his box score.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing is you look at these box scores and don't read too much in, but it's clear Iowa State has some options. The most important thing I think you look at is you've got people who are putting the ball in the basket at 8 or 9 different spots. So the leading scorer through 2 games has been Curtis Jones, the least heralded of the 3 recruits. There's some talk within the program he may be their leading scorer, and he may even come off the bench. I mean, I think you can't look at who's starting and who's not. Honestly, if you ask me right now, I don't think Omaha will start as of today. There's a long time to go, though, until November 7th.
Correct.
When Iowa State
a lot
plays.
of time in the weight room, a lot of... Yeah.
And for Omaha, he is an absolute first-round talent. There's no question. College basketball's hard. Like, you're not playing against Roosevelt anymore. You're not playing against Norwalk.
Could I add, too, that there's a reason why some of these top-end programs... Like, Scott Drew's not filling out his roster with Omaha Blues now like he used to.
Ran the numbers. Last year, there were 3 true freshmen that started in the Big 12. 3 total. It's hard. Mm-hmm. It takes a unique... person to do that because not only physically, and
especially in the post.
Yeah, and Omaha, I think physically will be okay. It's the game moves really fast. There's a lot going on. I mean, you're not just talking about running and dunking anymore. Rotations defensively, running the offense, being in the right spot. And I don't think we realize how good Trey King could be this year, which is not a shot at Omaha. Him and Trey play a lot of the same position. I mean, if you're asking me right now who's going to start, Trey or Omaha, it's Trey. Mm-hmm. Trey's going to be 24 years old in October. Mm-hmm. He's a grown man. Mm-hmm. He knows what he's doing. He's been in the system now for over 2 years, and he's going to be a really nice player. I think Omaha and Trey could play together for sure, but if you're going to ask me who's in the post to start game 1, it's Hassan
but just
and
look
Trey
at their
King.
Bodies next to one another.
And Omaha will be fine.
He's going to be a huge impact guy on this team.
I think the concern I have is if it's in November and December and he's not getting 35 minutes a game, will people look at Omaha and go, what's wrong with Omaha? Don't do that because it's hard at this level. He will get there. He will be a first-round pick, but you got to give him time to grow. And I think Iowa State has the luxury, which is great, of working him into the system, of working him into the rotation. So I expect Omaha's role to look a lot different in March than it does in November. He'll get there. He's got all the physical tools. He's making shots. Like, he has been really good offensively too. But you just got to give him a chance to catch up physically but mentally as well to this level. Not many people can. I think he'll get there. But it's also a great thing. I mean, you look at Iowa State's in the box scores. Mm-hmm. I mean, Curtis Jones has been great. Keyshawn Gilbert has been as advertised. Taman Lipsey has had an amazing summer. I don't think we realize how good Taman Lipsey could be, C-Dub. I think that's an ongoing story that will get more play as we get closer to November. Hassan Ward's been good. And then Pavletsky has done his job. He led the team in assists
in the second game, which was good to see.
And Momcilovic continues to shoot the heck out of the ball. He's going to be a phenomenal player. So this is a good thing. The fact that Omaha doesn't have to be the guy is a phenomenal thing for Iowa State
Yeah, you
basketball.
don't want to have to rely on that.
No, not at all. I mean, last year, I'm telling you guys, this team is so much more skilled than it was the last 2 years. Get your tickets now. Now, I know the non-conference schedule is not sexy, but this team is going to be super fun to watch.
Do you get a little happy pants thinking about the non-conference though? No, think about it. Like this is
I can't
those
name
are my favorite games when it's like
who are these guys?
I'm watching these guys and I'm watching the coaches mess with the rotation. What's going on in his head?
Yeah,
I love that aspect
Yeah.
of it. We don't really get that with football much because there's generally not a lot of blowout games with Iowa State football in the past. But when we have, it's a blast to watch the SEMO game and be like, oh, you know,
I forgot about Jason Essex.
Louisiana Monroe, and you get to see Real Mitchell go out. Don't
Right.
you guys love that? I love that
do.
as a geek. Like, I want to see these back end rotations and these, you know.
Yeah,
Oh, we're gonna try Jones at the point here for 5 minutes and see how it right. Like, I love it.
The first 3 games are the first 4 games are Green Bay, Lindenwood, which I didn't realize they were D1, Idaho State, and Grambling State.
Nice, Eddie Robinson. Shout out to him.
So I think 4-0 is very likely to start.
We did learn yesterday the first Orlando game is against VCU.
Yes,
And I don't know enough about them right now.
What's the Hassan Ward game?
Can I just get ready for football and then we'll work on that?
Yeah, we'll work on that. And then but just so people know, that is on Thanksgiving Day in Orlando. Fun. We did that. Remember we did that tournament?
I'm going back.
You're going?
I got the bullpen nod, yeah. Be back there this year.
Kids, or are you just going solo?
I don't know. I haven't got that far yet. Probably solo, I would think.
I might try and go to that.
Come on down.
I can't be on the radio, but
yeah. No, I'm doing those games. So it's who do they have after VCU?
yeah. So just bring that. Then they get the winner, or the hopefully winner of Boise State, Virginia Tech.
So Coach Stacey will be down there.
Coach Stacey will be down there. Oh my gosh! But we're
friend of the program.
We're figuring that out beforehand. We're not.
Oh, yeah.
We're not getting to Thanksgiving.
Friend of the program, Larry Stacey. Shout out to our buddy Brant, who's the biggest Larry Stacey fan in the world.
I got a note from my guy Joe, who is a manager under Stacey, and he goes, "I'm skeptical. Larry's not good with technology." And he goes, "Listening to podcasts? Question mark. On email? Question mark."
So
I was like, I don't know.
In defense, whoever this person claiming to be Larry Stacey is not a great emailer. I mean, it would be like my dad sending me an email via his phone.
A lot of emoticons.
A lot of emojis.
Yeah.
I think he's
Emoticons.
talked to text some.
Yeah, you can pick that up.
Yeah. I'm excited. I told Larry in my last one to him, I go, "Sir, you don't know what this means to us. You're one of our heroes, man."
We better not fail the people now. We've come too far.
Boise State and the fighting Larry Eustachies. All right, some other notes I took. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about Curtis Jones. We've been telling premium subscribers for months now that this guy's been lighting it up in practice. 8 of 12 from 3 in the first game.
Yep. Those are Lucas Steiger numbers.
Another guy, this is what I always liked about this pickup, is he really wanted to come here. Like
Curtis.
Yeah. He wasn't
Didn't go
even
anywhere
entertaining
else.
going anywhere else. He wanted to be a Cyclone. In your world with the NIL, like it's kind of rare these days for these transfers. And I've learned enough over the years doing this is you've got to have a mix of like the high end talents like the Omahas, and you've got to have the guys who really want to, the culture types. That's totally overused, but that's how I would consider Jones from what I know about him.
Yep.
And from what I understand, he's just worked his ass off, and they thought he was good. He's been better than they thought he was going to be. And that's a huge, I think they went 3 for 3 on transfers this year. I don't think there's a dud.
Early return are great.
I don't think there's a dud.
And all will play. I think 2 will start. Now, the question is, Jones could come off the bench. Pavlovsky is probably your 6th man right now, although again, way early. But yes, all 3 have hit. And the great thing is, I think it doesn't get talked about enough of Curtis. He's listed as a senior. He does have another year.
Yes.
So he's got that extra year.
And he will not be an NBA guy.
No.
So, yeah, he will more than likely be here 2 years.
And he's not a small guy. He's kind of slender, but he's 6'4", 6'5", so he'll be able to get his shot in the Big 12. I think the concern would be, like, if you stack up Jones and Gilbert comes from the Mountain West, which was a lot better conference analytically than the MAC, where Jones came from. So you would think the growth needed from the MAC to the Big 12 is different than the Mountain West to the Big 12. But Curtis seems to be fine. Just watching him play, it's not like it's going to be a huge physical adjustment for him. And he'll have a lot of space, because that's the great thing with Lipsy, ability to penetrate. Jackson Pavletsky's been a great playmaker in practice. Even getting some Gilbert, Momchilovich guys from the high post, the floor will be open. And if somebody can make a shot, Curtis Jones is going to be that guy, then it just makes the offense a lot more dangerous, and he's going to have plenty of opportunities. We talked about a couple months ago who will lead this team in scoring. I think he might be your favorite right now.
Jones?
Even off the bench.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Now, Gilbert's right there. It's probably I'd say Momchilovich has a chance too. He's been that good. And then Trey King. So this is what I'm saying. Like,
Trey King, real
you've
quick.
You've got guys.
Jones led him in the first game. King had 14 to lead him in the second.
Just we got to get used to this as a fan base. Curtis, we got to come up with a name for Curtis. I've heard Cujo, because we got Bob Jones
Yeah,
still.
we have Big Rob energy still.
And
yeah.
just, if we say Jones, we're going to have to get a little more clear here.
I want to do a thing with Big Rob energy. There was an old WWE guy, Rob Van Dam, and he would go RVD, and he had this like hand motion. I want to do a thing with Big Rob energy where he flexes and he goes Big Rob energy.
He'd probably do it for free, or I know a guy.
Let's pay him. I'll pay him. I'll slip him 100.
You don't have to slip it. It's totally legal.
Oh yeah, excuse me. Yeah. I want to give a shout out to some of our great sponsors here on Williams and Blum Wednesday. Specifically, our friends at Kelderman Manufacturing. The Kelderman corn reel is the original down core reel that was invented by the great Gary Kelderman back in 1977. I did some investigating on this because I know some of our farmer friends up in northern Iowa have had a lot of wind here lately. You probably know some of them, Blue.
Yeah.
They bend all the spokes in their reel so it works in standing corn. That's the difference. They've got mounts for damn near every combine head that has ever been made. And if they don't have it, they will make it for you. These are great Cyclones down in Oskaloosa. My main man, Jeff and Mark, these guys farm themselves, so they test their own products. If you are in the market for that, remember our friends at Kelderman Manufacturing in Oskaloosa. Check them out at kelderman.com. Also, Gravitate Co-working. What are you doing still working from home? I mean, I get it sometimes, but man, don't you need human interaction? I do, at least. I've learned that over the last couple of years for me. Check out our friends at Gravitate Co-working. They've got multiple places in the metro. Even up there in Jefferson, they've got we believe it's the first rural co-working area in the state of Iowa. GravitateCoworking.com. Appreciate their sponsorship here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. Yeah, you mentioned Keshawn Gilbert. He had 12 a couple games. Taman Lipsy in double figures a couple of times. Listen, I don't know what else to take from these box scores.
So today they play again today. This is Wednesday afternoon if you're...
Okay, we're recording this at about 9 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday.
And it's the Puerto Rico national team, although it's not the George Condit team because they just played the USA select team, which was cool. But this will be their best test.
Condit. God, he's gotten a lot better.
He's gotten a lot better. Yeah. Shout out.
Yeah.
Big George.
God, I wish we could have had that guy.
Well, it's been fun.
He was fine for Iowa State, but he looks like he's gotten a lot better.
He was getting shout outs of like, oh my God, this guy can play.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up maybe somebody will give him a look in a camp.
I hope so for him. He's a great guy. I always liked his dad a lot.
Dad's great.
Yeah,
Big George. I still keep up with his dad on social media, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for George.
We're Team George here. So it's neat. So Tyrese was playing Condit on FS1 the other day in that that USA basketball game.
Tyrese is one of the most electric basketball players in the world.
We got to admit it, right? Like he's
He really is.
he's basically like a weird, lanky version of Steve Nash at this point.
That's not bad.
Like,
I hadn't gone there.
No,
but that's not bad.
The guy can. Honestly, if Tyrese, I
That's
don't
not
mean
bad,
this.
Blum.
Thank you. I'm one of the 20 NBA fans in Iowa. If Tyrese's shot looked more normal, I think he'd have more respect. If that's a weird thing to say,
No.
it goes in.
Yeah.
But it just kind of looks still funky. And honestly, I think it hurts him from like people think, oh, that guy. But no, he is. If you look at his numbers, he had one of the best statistical seasons for a point guard ever last year.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
And he is a megastar in the making. Like his smile, the way he conducts himself, all that stuff matters when it comes to your brand.
Yeah.
People want to be around him. Products are going to want to be associated with him. We've got a gem of an Iowa State alum here.
Yeah, he's going to be the starter on the USA basketball team. Think about that.
Well, that's when it hit me the other night.
Yeah.
Watching that.
I
I
did
was
the same
like,
thing.
holy crap.
Like, you forget.
Tyrese is like the main, he's the guy.
He's the guy on the team now.
And if you go to Team USA's highlights on Twitter, he's involved in like every one of them. And it's like, oh, he's not just the best player on the Indiana Pacers.
The crazy thing is, yeah, because he, right, like it's different.
Yeah.
It's a different,
It's a
USA
different-
still carries that cachet.
Yeah.
He went from, he was hanging out with Niang and Naz and Jaron Holmes at the Niang golf outing at Ames Country Club. And then 10 days later, he's playing for USA on TV. I'm like,
What's going on with Jaron? I saw him there, and I thought that was cool that he was fitting in with those guys because I always put him in that ilk as far as the personality goes.
Awesome. And I think it's legit. Like those guys all have that connection. Well, they have the connection to TJ and Micah, and that's really what Micah Byers, which kind of binds them all together. But I think Jaron is figuring out where he wants to go. He could stay here and play in the G League next year, or go make a little bit more money overseas. And that's the
Go make your money.
Matt Thomas is kind of going through the same thing of, do I stay? If I stay, then I can potentially make an NBA and then get paid. Or if I go overseas, Matt Thomas could get 7 figures overseas.
That's what and there's no income tax. So it's
and
like,
they pay for cars and they pay for.
yeah, it's such a tough deal.
But living overseas isn't for everybody.
No.
So and a lot of times, if you're straight out of college like Jaron, you might say, "Hey, I want to give it a shot first to see if." And is Jaron Holmes an NBA guy? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But
go make your money.
if you can go make money somewhere. But he's been around a little bit. He was in Vegas working out with some teams, and one of my favorite people, Jaron Holmes.
Love him. All right, let's get into a few other topics. We'll pick up the. We'll go through the rummage here when it comes to realignment. Good week for the Big 12, obviously. There has been a lot of confusion as far as what I said on the podcast on Sunday night regarding shares, and I'm not backtracking on any of it. I do believe that the Big 12 schools are all going to make. So I had a really good phone call with Dave Smoke, who covers Baylor at 365, and we were trying to figure this out together, and we discovered that all of our sources were saying the same thing. There was just a lot of nuance in it. The number that had been thrown out, Bloom, is 31.7. Brett McMurphy threw that number out, and he's not wrong.
Yeah, it's
Here's where it got
pretty
confusing.
specific number.
That is the average annual take-home television number for these schools throughout the entire deal. What we have learned is that the Big 12 schools will all take home less in the first few years than they would have had they not, because it's on an escalator. So yes, the shares are diluted early on in this thing, and then it will, keep getting higher and exceed it. So if you're into that, I don't think most fans care, but if you're into that, that number will be lower for a few years because of the expansion to 16. But that number doesn't include the playoff.
I would say that doesn't include the NCAA tournament.
NCAA
It doesn't
tournament, all that
That's
stuff.
an extra 15 to 20.
Yes. But
Or
again,
more.
Smokey and I were kind of working the story together because what is it with fans that they pin media people against each other? It's like, well, so Smokey said this on his show, and Williams said this, and they must hate
Really?
each other. So then we just called each other and like actually our sources are saying the same thing. It's just there's like nuance here. Oh, shocking! There's nuance in the world. There's a little gray area here. Wow.
No such thing.
So that's where that ended up. We were both right. It's just, again, that 31.7, McMurphy wasn't wrong, but that will not be what they make in the first couple of years of this deal.
What is it though about fan bases that care with that? And I know why.
Yeah.
But have you ever looked in, like, do you know what the Vikings salary cap number is? I have no idea. What is it?
I don't understand either way.
What is I don't know what the St. Louis Cardinals payroll is.
Yeah,
I think they're in the middle. I don't know.
Pujols needs a max contract. Damn it. I know they don't have that in baseball, but you know what I mean?
Maybe that happens. And we're in the weeds here.
Maybe I'm a bad fan because I think that the Braves are absolutely fleecing Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna right now.
They are.
And I'm like, yes, this is great. We have payroll flexibility. This is awesome. That's how I look at it. But yeah, I've never been like, man, I wonder what the take home deal is with if the Vikings sold beer in their stadium, they would get an extra $1 million a year. It's so weird how college.
It is. Now, I would say the difference is, because there's no revenue share.
Yes, I get it. There's no draft.
There's no draft.
Yeah.
Exactly. There is no salary cap, so money does matter, unfortunately, in college sports, and it's just getting redirected now to the players. So yes, at the end of the day, what you make in a media contract does filter down to your success if done appropriately. However, you still have schools like Nebraska that pay Scott Frost $20 million to go away.
Correct.
I mean,
we need to limit the number of scholarships, not drastically, but cut 7 of them off, 7 or 8. And then that's going to greatly funnel some of these players from the Big Ten and the
that's
SEC.
That's an interesting idea. Now, they
want to play. But these guys want to play.
The SEC and the Big Ten won't do that, though. So
well, if they're having to pay all these guys, maybe they will. I mean, how greedy are they? Greed is a crazy drug.
Do you want to know how you fix college sports? You ready?
Yeah.
Number one, the one thing that would fix college sports before anything else, not a salary cap, not anything, is the transfer portal. If you start enforcing the transfer portal more, I was having a good chat with
real rules.
Real rules, you get one transfer and you're done. That cleans up a lot of things really fast. Because why has NIL gotten out of control? Is because it's free agency every single year.
And the COVID year hasn't helped that either. So we're getting rid of that.
So I think the blame actually is misplaced by college administrators on NIL. If you would fix the portal, a lot of that's, you're right, then people want to go play. And it fixes itself. If I know that I can't just my agent, and a lot of these guys have agents now. Mm-hmm. My agent can't shop me around every summer. Mm-hmm. Your value it doesn't keep going up. I mean, what we're seeing now is values haven't dropped.
So the problem is with that, and I don't disagree with you. I think that would do a lot. But then the players, if they ever unionize, would say, "Well, why can coaches move around?"
And that's therein lies the difficulty here.
That's where it gets tough.
So what's going to happen is the players are going to have to decide. Either and right now they get the best of both worlds, and I'm for it. Okay, for too long. It was
stacked against them.
Yeah. So it's okay, yes, but we're learning now. You can't have NIL and the portal at the same time. It is not functional the way this current system is. It says a guy who's in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But if you do the portal, if you fix the portal and they enforce the portal, you can only get the one transfer or maybe the twice if you graduate. Then the numbers come down almost immediately because you're not having to keep promising more and more and more to keep these players. And it's not happening at Iowa State, but a lot of places, these guys will just go in the portal just to get more from their current team. They don't have any intention of transferring, but it's the way to keep raising the bar. It'd be like if you're in the NFL and every year you could go to free agency. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So you got to stop that somehow.
And the closer we get to the NFL model, the more there has to be some regulation.
Exactly. And so if these guys want to get
coaches too, you don't see NFL coaches just you don't see Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings being like, "Oh, I'm going to parlay this into getting the Patriots job." Like they don't do that. Once
Because
you have
they
a
have contracts.
and they have to, and they're not stacked against the schools. They're not stacked against the teams like contracts in college football are. Like it's totally in favor of the coaches, and it has to be for these athletic directors to be able to get them.
Yep, and that's why the first thing that needs to be fixed. It's not necessarily NIL. It's the portal would solve a lot of these issues. And in my opinion, it's easy to point out for the administrators, this money for the student athletes is ruining our system. It's not that. It's this free-for-all that you guys allowed that created this system. If you fix the portal, I think everything regulates eventually. And that's why I hope they start enforcing the portal policies. And I think you'll see NIL still be a part of it, but you're not going to have these crazy escalations and bidding teams against each other. You'll still have a little bit of it, but it'd be a lot more manageable.
Presented as always by Mechdyne, Williamson Blum Wednesday. We'll wrap things up here
but until then, we'll
gloomy Wednesday.
Keep selling beer, coffee, vodka.
You had coffee come out today?
Yeah, we got a vodka coming out tomorrow.
Is Iowa State the first coffee NIL?
I think we are. We invented cold brew NIL coffee.
Yes.
That's coming out here in a couple weeks.
Freaking love it.
Yeah, it's actually awesome story. Great people at Northern Vessel down in Des Moines.
When will that be in like grocery stores or?
Working on that, but it'll be available online for everybody.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just in
Got
the
it.
state.
So anybody can get it anywhere
Nationwide.
That's cool. It's because it's not like liquor where.
Nope.
Yeah.
So you can buy get a 6-pack of this We Will cold brew for $20, and we'll ship it everywhere.
I'll absolutely buy some of that.
So I'm working on the exact date, but it'll be sometime here in the next
What's
few
going
weeks.
on with me? Because you know how I used to drink like 3 pots of coffee a day? I'm not drinking. I like the cold brew type stuff more now.
Well, we'll
I don't know
get
what the hell is happening to me.
I mean,
It's like my taste buds have changed.
you drink like 8 of those Celsiuses. Celsius.
Daddy needs a little more high octane. You know what I'm saying?
How much is in one of those things?
Caffeine,
Yeah.
300 milligrams.
What's a cup of coffee?
Just depends on what kind of coffee it is, I think. I don't know. 100?
All right, just
Not as much as those.
those things will get you going.
ACC is reportedly talking to Cal and Stanford, and I couldn't help Blum,
Oh my
but
gosh, what a mess!
these Oregon softball players were upset that they were joining the Big Ten because they don't want to be going to Rutgers. Imagine if you're a Stanford swimmer or a Stanford softball player or what, and you're
A rower.
you could have gone to an Ivy League school. But you wanted to compete, and the best athletic department in the country is Stanford when you factor in all the Olympic sports and all that. And now they're like, hey, okay, you're getting this world-class education that's really hard, but you've got to travel. Like the closest place for you to travel is outside of those 3 Pac-12 schools, is Lincoln, Nebraska.
That's crazy.
I mean, have you ever flown charter to the West Coast? It takes a long-ass time, depending on the type of plane you get.
and they probably, even those Olympic sports, don't do charters.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, they're probably not even getting that. This is getting crazy. ACC talking to Cal and Stanford.
It just doesn't. I understand what they're doing. It's not going to work. It won't work. You can't have two. It just doesn't. It doesn't add up.
Did you see some of
the ACC schools are fine. They just do one road trip. You can't have your entire season on the other coast.
No.
That doesn't functionally. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. And it's you can get away with it for football.
That's the only sport.
But you can't anything else. It doesn't fit. You know, at one point, Chris, here's the other thing I was thinking about. Why don't we just remove football from the equation?
You're exactly right.
Let's just remove football.
Football's going to be its own entity, and then we'll have regional conferences for everything else.
Yes, it needs to happen. It's got to the point where this has been the tipping point of this doesn't make sense anymore. Football is on its own.
But how do you get there? How do you get there?
It has to be Sankey, and it's got to be the big 3 or 4 commissioners and just say, guys, what are we doing? And fix it. And just say, we are creating what they need to do. And it'd be great for everybody, is they need to create what is essentially a professional college football league. Okay? not managed by the NCAA. They create their own rules, their own NIL.
How does
Their
Title
own
IX
TV
fit with that? This would be my only question.
I don't know.
Because
I don't know. I think
they're still technically participating with universities, and it's a federal law. How does that work?
And this is where it's got it. So honestly, the federal government has to step in as well, and everyone's got to agree. All right, guys, we are removing college football from higher education. Now,
so you literally have minor league teams on these campuses.
I think that's the only way you're gonna that'll make it work in the long run.
Do they have to go to class?
I don't know. I mean,
the way you're
probably
describing
not.
it to me, I would say they don't have to go to
No,
class.
I don't.
They are football players representing, like, they're football clubs representing these universities.
I think that's probably it's weird to say, and at first you're like, no, that doesn't make sense. But it's the only way you're going to get around all of these regulations and keep things somewhat coherent. And just take basketball and all the Olympic sports on your own. The NCAA governs those.
I like this merger of the Pac-12, Mountain West, and American that got floated around.
Yeah, I mean,
that would make sense.
It's like football. Football carries all the weight, and yet it impacts literally 20% of the student athletes at these schools. Like we are lost. We have lost the plot over football, and I know why we've lost it, because that's where the money is. But I think this is the reassessment everybody needs. The question is, just like COVID, when the derecho blew through 3 years ago, nobody stepped up and said, this is dumb, fix it. They all went on their own factions. And until these groups come together, it's going to continue to go down this strange path where Stanford and Cal could be playing Miami.
Here's the deal. The bowl games now are screwed because the Pac-12 is gone.
I didn't even think about that. What are
They don't
doing
have
with bowl games?
So they're actually discussing, this is per Brett McMurphy, the Action Network, where some of these bowl games may have like 2 Big 12 teams or 2 Big 10 teams that didn't play during the regular season. I can fix bowl games for everybody. Do you want me to? It's this simple.
Why don't they listen to this podcast?
I can fix bowl games for you.
Let's go.
So you have your playoff.
Yep.
Bowl games where the sponsorship money is NIL.
Love
so
it.
the players are getting paid to play in bowl games and put rivalries together. If Iowa State and Nebraska are both bowl eligible, and put them together.
Love that.
We've already killed off all these rivalries.
The conferences don't matter anymore.
Oklahoma and Nebraska can play in a bowl game. We don't need these stupid ties anymore. Make it a draft for bowl games, right? Okay, we've got our playoff games. The first pick in the draft is the Chick-fil-A Bowl.
You get your.
They can pick whoever they want.
I like that.
The sponsorship money, a good chunk of it goes to the players, and we need to think about how much more ratings these things would get too. If these bowl games are, the NCAA tournament kind of is doing this now. You know, they'll put sexy matchups up against each other. No, screw it. If Florida and Florida State are both free agents, didn't make the playoffs, play them in a freaking bowl game.
That's a great. This wins.
I've been telling Pollard for 10 years to get me on a committee. I would fix college football. I have not yet on a committee.
Now, you're never going to get all these suit coats to agree to this. Because it takes their power away.
Exactly.
And then they can't travel around the country.
I'm not going to shut up about this. I've been thinking long and hard about this for 48 hours.
Well, yeah. So you'll have 16 teams 12 teams in the playoff.
Yes, we should have 16, but we'll have 12.
And you know what I think you do? Okay, here we go. Depending on what your payout is for the sponsorship. So let's say you're Chick-fil-A and you really want to spend the most, then you get the first pick of the 2 teams. And then if Insight.com is second, they get the next pick.
Blockbuster.
I like this.
I'm not dumb as I look.
Because honestly, who cares about
you're
the
still gonna
conference matchups
You will still
anymore?
have opt-outs. That will not go away. Whatever these sponsorships are paying is not going to, if, a guy's projected to be a top 5 pick, he's still probably going to opt out, but you will have fewer of them.
And it makes too much sense to use the millions that these sponsors are paying just to give it the
And
NILs.
it's just fans will care more. Like fans are going to be more willing to travel if you're playing a rival, right? Put Iowa and Iowa State up against each other in a bowl game. We'll have a rematch this September. God, imagine the interest in that.
You could, and I love the idea of a draft.
Yeah.
That's like,
And we're all watching.
we're all watch. Like, where are we going?
It's a 6-hour
It's the
thing.
NCAA tournament,
Yes.
but with okay.
I'm looking at you, college administrators. Just listen to me. I'll fix your sport for you.
Get the portal figured out.
Very
Get the bowl
humble.
games. Yeah.
Very humble.
Well, we did solve realignment, so
Last thing, we will be in Storm Lake a week from today for our Cyclone Fanatic We Will golf outing / road show. You do not have to play golf to attend the road show that night. I am still working on confirmation from Storm Lake. I'm assuming we'll start at around 7
for the program.
For the program.
Yeah.
Golf will start at 12. We already have a lot of teams. We're going to have a full field for that.
I'm so pumped.
I knew that these Western Iowa rooms
You guys
would
are the
show
best.
up, man.
There's still room. So we have, I think, 26 teams. We have room for 36. So it's going to be a blast.
I'm going to have
got
the
to
most.
check that weather forecast.
I'm going
make
to have
sure
the
we're
most
good.
mass on my team.
You got
Colin Newell and Jeff Woody are on my team. We're going to be
evens you
just
out.
doing
Yeah.
push-ups.
I got to
after
figure out
every-
who I got Jay, and I got to figure out who else is on our team.
I'm still speaking of free agents. I'm looking for one free agent right now. I don't think I need to get an actual golfer. I mean, I've never played with Newell or Woody, but I can't imagine their scratch.
So Woody claims to be a pretty good golfer.
Well, I'll
He
be
talks.
the judge of
He
that.
talks the talk.
Woody and Mahoney doing their new show. Kicking It is what they
Kicking
called it. Get it? Because Mahoney was a kicker. Yeah.
Speaking of football, fall camp's going great.
Okay.
Just putting that out there.
See, now I already have Bloom people pissed at me.
I know. Okay, I'm just
Because you're hyping up the
I'm
offensive line.
I'm not hyping up the offensive line. My point was
People were mad at me.
they were really mad at me too. I'm like, guys, I'm sorry.
What do you want us to say, people?
I'm just what I will be honest and I'm looking at the camera. The staff is excited about the first 5 days of camp. Can I just say that?
Yeah, it's great.
Should they not be excited? I don't know. Would they tell me if they're not excited? I don't know.
You know what though? I think there's reason to. I think there's a lot of relief that this gambling stuff's getting out there, and they can just move on. I think
agree.
that's a very real thing.
And truthfully, if you aren't excited this time of year,
Yeah, then
what's
you're
the point?
just a curmudgeon.
Yeah, that's just
You're just a curmudgeon. Speaking of that, Rob Gray will be on the podcast with me tomorrow. We're
Oh.
going to talk about Rob's return to Cyclone Fanatic and cover some Cyclone football topics. How about that?
love it. Huge addition.
Title IX this week as well. Go back and listen to the ladies, Jeff and Grant, have recorded. And then we also have a wrestling podcast coming up where Ben and Jacqueline are going to break down what all this realignment means for the sport of wrestling, which is really
Interesting. Yeah,
interesting.
talk
I mean,
about that.
you had the Arizona schools, right? Like the Big 12 has made a shift when it comes to being a wrestling conference. So they're going to break that down. All coming up this week here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. Thanks to our friends at Mechdyne for sponsoring. We are in the Wild Rose Casino studios here in Ankeny. Bloom and I will be back on Sunday night for you guys. We appreciate you watching on YouTube and listening wherever you download your podcasts.